Welcome back to another edition of the Mental Dimes podcast. We have done it. We brought back the legend, the mastermind, the college basketball guru. The Chuckster is back on the show. We are talking all things March Madness. We are giving an in-depth look at what is to come, our predictions, and who you need to take. Sit back and take a listen. Mr. Chucky, we have missed you. Our fans,
I made it back. I made it back.
The fans have been asking where you've been, just to kind of keep everybody informed. Kind of let people know what's going on you in your world.
Well, coincidentally, I'm sitting exactly in the right spot. I earned that a couple months ago, degree, graduated from WVU. So I'm no longer a current Mountaineer. I'm an alum of WVU, moved on from there. I'm back down in Alabama, just grinding along. WAFF 48 News. If you enjoy local news coverage, you can always, if you are in our vicinity, you can always turn to Channel 48 for all your breaking news coverage. We have a lot of shootings happening. We had 2 officer-involved shootings happening, Coach Behringer. I mean, over the weekend. I mean, they weren't sitting at home watching conference tournaments like you and I were. They were out home and outside and having some times with guns. So that's what I've been covering. It's nice to be able to sit back on a Monday evening and discuss hoops, a game that you and I both love more than I think a lot of other things in life.
You stunned me there. We were talking about guns. We're talking about police officers getting shot.
So it's
West
Alabama.
I think we should just move on from that and talk about what we both love. Obviously, big news, Selection Sunday this past Sunday. The brackets are revealed. I know we talked about it a little before, but the bracket as a whole might be the most, probably to me, the most well-even bracket I've ever remembered it being.
Yeah. I think it's even to a point, and then when you take a quick glance to the top left corner in that West region, you have some incredibly talented teams from top to bottom. You have Gonzaga and Duke, and then don't forget about Connecticut at the 5 and Arkansas at the 4, and you have a very good, very competitive Texas Tech team. And then Memphis as a 9. They've come on. Memphis looked like it was dead in the water by the end of January, and they've come on. So that West region, you have to say that's one of the toughest looking regions I have seen in my lifetime, which is not very long, but still been around a little bit.
I feel like in the last 10 years, just because 10 years is about as far back as I can remember, I always feel like the region with the number 1 overall seed, it just seems like it's always the toughest.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's coincidence. I don't know if that's because that's the first bracket they reveal on Selection Sunday, and so you're just amazed all at once. I don't know what it is, but I'm with you. I do agree that's the toughest region. But before we get started, just real quick, spoiler alert for those listening. Give me your quick Final Four.
Just right off the cuff, it took me a couple tries to really feel confident, and I had to wait till the bracket was unleashed to finally get my 4 down to where I liked it. And as of right now, Monday night, a day before our first play-ins, I have Gonzaga, Arizona, Kansas, and Purdue. I know 3-1 seeds. Off the top of it, you want to say, oh, there's going to be upsets. There's no way 3-1 seeds make it out of 4 regions. But I have confidence in those first 2. Gonzaga and Arizona are 2 very good teams. Gonzaga, again, Mark Few Fields, another great team. Arizona, if you haven't been able to watch them play, which I know us being in Alabama, we're not staying up till 11 o'clock at night to watch basketball games most of the time, especially let alone the Pac-12. No offense, Pac-12. But Arizona, they have Benedict Mathurin and then Ballo, this kid, 7'1" from Mali, Umar Ballo. My goodness, he's a fantastic force. And then also, just to back that up, they have another 7'1" guy, Christian Koloko from Cameroon. He is incredible as well. So Arizona has some great talent. Then Kansas, I've seen Kansas 3 times this year with West Virginia. They're great. It's not his best team as many people have wanted to say, but they're good. And then don't forget about Purdue. I know the Big Ten had its time last year where they were horrendous in the tournament. Purdue's very good. Purdue is a very good team that is a couple missed shots, a couple rebounds away from winning their first Big Ten tournament since 2009 yesterday.
I agree with 2 of them. I've got Gonzaga coming out of the West. I think from top to bottom, they're really, really good. Obviously, they're always good, but they have all the pieces they need, and they're playing well all year. I've got, in your shocker, I'm going to have Illinois coming out of my South region. Kofi Coburn, they, disappointing in last year. They're due in the world of, how the basketball gods work. Sometimes you're just due for one, and I think Brad Underwood and Illinois is due for one. I got Iowa staying hot down there in the Midwest region coming out, and then I'm with you on Purdue. I think they're a solid squad. I think, they're built for a good run. They've got, you got to be able to score the basket when it comes to March Madness. And I think Purdue is definitely, along with those other three teams that can score when they need a bucket. So those are my quick four.
Coach, I find it interesting. You have three Big Ten teams. That is a very, very, not just because Illinois is a 4 seed or Purdue's a 3 or Iowa's even a 5 seed, but those are bold takes, Coach. I mean, your Big Ten history is not in your favor, but
just like I said, they're due. I mean, Big Ten had an awful tournament last year. Awful tournament. One they don't want to remember. And I have a few personal rules, and then we'll elaborate on more as we continue. But there's certain teams that you don't ride with in the NCAA tournament. You don't ride with Michigan State because Tom Izzo just manages to lose those games. You don't ride with Jamie Dixon because Dixon just somehow manages to lose games. And I've always stood by you don't ride with Purdue down there. And but I'm going against my gut this year.
Okay. Jamie Dixon, I will agree with that till the day he retires. Jamie Dixon in the tournament is death.
All right, so let's get started. I'm going to first let's go through the Midwest region. We're going to go game by game. Just get your picks, fill them out, and then when we get done, we're going to go back and you hit on your Cinderella teams when we get there.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so starting in the West, 16 seeds. We'll just make this universal for them all. None of us is going to pick a 16 seed because mathematically it doesn't make sense to. Only one ever happening with UMBC beating Virginia. So I'm sure you're going to pick Gonzaga. But if you had to, Chuck, if you had to pick a 16 seed to upset a one, who would be the most likely team to go down?
I'd say Baylor. Baylor is your 4th 1 seed when it comes to it. It goes Gonzaga, Arizona, Kansas, and then Baylor. So that's 1 through 4. Baylor, definitely, they have the injuries to deal with. They have the guys maybe coming back that you've been waiting on. And then the players that they've had playing have been good, but not what we saw last year where they were just completely dominant. So Baylor, if there was ever a 1 seed that was going to be at risk in this field between those 4 teams, Baylor's the one. And Norfolk State, that's a good little team there. Norfolk State made a tournament a year ago. They many people have said they didn't get to experience the full embrace of the tournament, what you have. And so they get to experience the real thing this year. And they get a tough draw against Baylor, of course, being a 16 seed. But if anything was going to happen crazy, I think I'd have to go against Baylor in that first round. But I'm not going to for real.
Great point. I'm going to ride. If there's one that's going down, I think it's going to be Kansas. I think Texas Southern, they're one of those teams that they always are competitive in every game they play. They're always competitive in conference. They got stuck in that play-in game, which, after you look at a lot of these 16 seeds, they like that play-in game because it gives them a chance to get a win early on. But I'm like you, I'm not picking them, but if I had to, I'm riding with Texas Southern over Kansas in that first one. Anywho, moving on, we're going to jump to the 15 seeds. The last time a 15 seed beat a 2, Chuck, was 2015. I'm not sure if you remember my guy at MTSU, but knocking off Tom Izzo down there. Do you see a 2 seed?
That was your Syracuse year, Final Four year.
It was. I was pumped because Michigan State was loaded that year, but thankfully Syracuse had an easier route after that. But looking at the 2 seeds, you got Duke, Villanova, Kentucky, and Auburn. Do you see any of those 2 seeds?
The only one would be Auburn, just because of they are very talented, but they've been inconsistent, especially to end the year. They did not look nearly as strong. I think Auburn peaked. When Auburn got up to number 1, it definitely peaked. It didn't maintain that ranking very long. Yes, Auburn hung around in the top 5 for a while, but I think they peaked. I think Auburn peaked a few weeks ago. I think they're still a very talented team. Jabari Smith is going to show up every game. It's just a question of, does he have a supporting cast? I mean, you have Walker Kessler, who is the best defensive player in the SEC, but then you need Wendell Green, you need Katie Johnson, and the jury's out on them every once in a while. So Auburn would be at risk. Jackson State is a good team. Jackson State should not be their coach, and you know it, and I know it. Jacksonville State should not be there representing the Sun, the Atlantic Sun. It should be the Bellarmine Knights. It's not Bellarmine, it's not Bellarmine, it's Bellarmine from Louisville, Kentucky. The Bellarmine Knights should be there. It is blasphemy that the Knights did not get in, but Jacksonville State, they're a competitive team, but that's the only risky thing there. I still got to ride with Auburn.
I agree with you. I honestly don't think any of them 2-15 games are going to be close. I think the 2 seeds, they're all just going to overpower them in these particular matchups. So I'm with you. I'm going to ride with all the 2s. I'm not even going to give you a team to be on upset alert because I don't have confidence in any of those 15 seeds right now. Moving on to our 3 versus 14 matchups. Very interesting. Some very good matchups, to be honest with you, throwing them out there. Texas Tech plays Montana State. Tennessee's got Longwood. Wisconsin plays Colgate, and then we got Purdue playing Yale. For those people listening that might not know some history of the 14 seeds versus 3, last year Abilene Christian was a 14 seed that upset Texas at the 3. My mind just went blank. Chuck, help me out. There was one about 2 or 3 years ago where a 14 beat a 3.
It wasn't 2 or 3 years ago. It was 6 years ago, Coach.
Oh, my bad.
Was paying me to say it.
Oh, my bad.
2016, West Virginia was the 3 seed. We lost to Abilene. No, it wasn't Abilene Christian. It was Stephen F. Austin. You got me thinking Abilene Christian here. Stephen F. Austin, the Texas schools, these little Texas schools pulling off these 14-3 upsets, and it was horrendous. It was just absolutely embarrassing, and we lost.
I didn't mean to throw too much shade there. But anyway, is there a 3 seed versus the 14 that you first of all, do you have one going down? And if you don't, who is the closest one that's on the fence that you could see most likely to lose?
I don't have one going down. There's 2 games that you would have. What if? I think if Princeton doesn't lose to Yale, what if Princeton wins the Ivy League? That might be a competitive game down in the East between Purdue and Princeton, but it's Yale. Yale's a good team. It's not what we've seen before with the Yale Bulldogs. Purdue is just too good. Montana State, Texas Tech. Texas Tech's one of my dark horses. We'll get to that later, but Texas Tech is fantastic. Mark Smith did an incredible job with the transfer portal, taking over for Coach Beard, and so I think Texas Tech's too good. But the one, I'll just go over to it. I think the one is the Midwest. Colgate and Wisconsin, because if you remember Colgate from the Patriot League, Colgate last year nearly beat Arkansas in the first round. Arkansas, who went on to the Elite 8. Colgate gave them quite a bit of a scare. That was a very testy game there. A lot of us who had Arkansas going deep we were checking the box score every other second. So Colgate over Wisconsin would be something to maybe keep an eye on. But Wisconsin, you got Brad Davison, Johnny Davis, one of the clear-cut best players in the Big Ten this year. And so I don't have a lot of confidence there, but that's the only one I'd circle down there, that Midwest region.
I'm right there with you. And I'm almost borderline. I'm not picking the 14 seed to win, but if I had to, I would ride with Colgate too. Colgate's averaging 76 points a game, and they can stroke it. I think the thing that hurts them in this matchup is Wisconsin plays so slow, and they're going to control the pace that Colgate's not going to have a chance to outshoot them. I think that the advantage goes to Wisconsin in that matchup, but I'm with you. Colgate's shown that they can compete. They've shown that they can score the ball this year. They're very senior laden, have a lot of old guys with experience. So Wisconsin would be my team on upset alert, but I'm not ready to pull the trigger yet on that one either. So we'll bounce on, keep rolling down, move to our 4 seeds. We got Arkansas versus Vermont. We got Illinois versus UTC. We've got Providence versus San Diego State, and we got UCLA versus Akron. Some side notes and some bracket facts. A 13 seed has won 26 over the 36 years that the expansion has been taking place. Ever since the bracket's been 64 teams, at least 64 teams, 36 years ago, 26 of those 36 years has had a 13 seed win. The last year, 2 13 seeds did pull the upset. So it's not uncommon. We'll put it that way, Chuck. It's not going to be uncommon.
No.
Well, let's go game by game on this one. Vermont versus Arkansas. You
I
pulling the
would go
trigger?
against Arkansas if I could, but I like JD Note. I like Jalen Williams too much. I like Tony too much. I think they're just too good of a team to not pick them. I like Vermont, the Catamounts. They've looked very good, but I have to go with Arkansas. I think Arkansas is too good of a team. I think they're a very competitive team. I wish Arkansas wouldn't have been in the region with Gonzaga and UConn and Texas Tech and Duke, because I think them as a 4 seed in any one of these other regions really could have made some noise, but I have to go with Arkansas.
I agree. I think here's a good rule of thumb I like to live by, Chuck. If you were going to be in a bar fight, would you want Eric Musselman on your side, or would you like for him to stand on the other side of the bar with a broken beer bottle coming at you?
Yeah, I'd take him on my team any day.
I am taking Musselman on my team, so I am not ever going to pick against him. And I think Vermont has gotten so much attention, and I think by Arkansas nearly losing last year against Colgate is going to make this game. Not that it's going to change the fact that it's a hard game, but I feel like Arkansas is just going to come out guns a-blazing. Moving on, this game seems to be a friendly upset. A lot of people's pick. Illinois versus UTC.
That's a tough one. I think Illinois, I voiced my concern with them before we started recording. They've been an inconsistent group down the stretch here. They looked like they were going to be very, very good in the Big Ten. But they managed to finish out the conference well. They had a share of the Big Ten regular season title. They did not win the conference tournament, losing to Indiana, of course. But I have to go with Illinois. I think Illinois is too good. I think they still have Kofi Coburn, who is a fantastic big man. I think if you didn't have him, it would be a different story. But the sheer size that he has, it just makes them a very, very likable team to pick. So I have to go with Illinois.
Yeah, I've got Illinois in my Final Four, so I'm riding with them. I think UTC got shafted here being the 13 seed. I also think Illinois got shafted by being the 4. You win the regular season Big Ten conference, and they push you down. I know you lost first round of the tournament, but I feel like Illinois kind of got underseeded here, in my opinion. Riding with Illinois. Moving on. Providence versus San Diego State.
South Dakota State, coach.
Oh, so bad. Sorry. Jackrabbits. Does that mean you're going with the Jackrabbits?
I think I will. Providence, I really liked watching Providence play, because Providence, I've said it from the start, Providence is a team that you would love to coach, because it's the team, when they go down, they thrive. Not that you like to trail by significant deficits every game, but Providence, when they would go down by 10, 15 points, you never felt like they were down 10 or 15 points. They always seemed like they were right within reach of coming back and taking the lead. And that's why they were such a great team to watch. But that Creighton game in the Big East semifinal, losing to Creighton by 29 points, that really, 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 really shined a light on some very disparaging things about this Providence team. They don't have it sometimes. They really just can't shoot the ball very well. You have a great player in Bynum. He can't do it all himself. Mania is a fantastic defensive player. He really knows how to hustle, get after it. But South Dakota State, coming out of the Summit League, I don't know much about the Jackrabbits. I remember West Virginia going up against them in a preseason tournament last year. Jackrabbits, though, they're a good team. They come out of Summit League, and I just pulled up some notes here about them. They have 3 players that average at least 15 points. That's a recipe for disaster for anybody going up against them. They have Bailey Shireman, who averages 16, Douglas Wilson, and Noah Friedel. And so it is a very competitive team. They shoot 44% from three-point range. If you can shoot three-pointers, it doesn't matter who you're going up against. If you don't have to go in the paint against anybody, let alone a Power 6 Big East team like Providence, you can be okay. I got to go with South Dakota State.
I'm riding with you. Providence, they're 25-5. Had a great year, a great record. They've had 11 games where they won by 5 or less points. Mm-hmm. You can look at that from both sides. You can say that's very impressive that they found a way to win. Or you can say they were one bad break away from losing the game. They, one bad call, one bad dribble off your foot, and they could be 500 going into not even making the tournament. I'm going to get it right. It's been a long day. South Dakota State is 30-4. They average 86.7 points a game. 86.7 points a game. I don't care how good a defense Providence throws at you. 86.7 points score, points win the game. You know, South Dakota State, they played a good non-conference schedule. They played Bama. They played another team in their showcase tournament around Thanksgiving time. And they're 30-4, Chuck. I mean, these dudes know how to win. I'm with you. I like the Jackrabbits. I'm rolling with them. This is my 13-4 upset.
Yeah, they're a good team. They're a very good team. They went undefeated in conference play too. Don't forget that 18-0, which it is the Summit League. It's not something to really, really write home about, but conference
Winning's a habit.
Conference play, it's tough to do that. It's tough to do that. So
yeah. Last region down there in the East, we got UCLA over Akron. I know Akron, they were a 4 seed going into the MAC tournament. They ended the season winning 8 of their last 10. They've been playing hot. Akron's always a sneaky team. They, they pulled an upset or two in the last 10 years. I personally don't think they have what it takes to beat UCLA. I think UCLA is a solid team. What's your thoughts on that one?
UCLA is playing really well right now. They finally came together. Johnny Juzang's on it. Jules Bernard is really looking good. Jaime Jaquez has been the decision maker. He has changed the game these last 6 times out for UCLA. You have Johnny Juzang and you have Jules Bernard and you have Tiger Campbell to contend with. But if you have to deal with Jaime Jaquez on top of that, and we know how he played the tournament last year, he was fantastic. He was a major factor in that deep run to the Final Four for UCLA that almost got them to the national championship game. So UCLA is playing really well right now. You mention that about Akron. They're playing really well right now. So both teams, something's going to break. One team is going to fall apart, and I think it's going to be Akron. UCLA looks too good. They have great size. They move the ball so well. Mick Cronin finally figured out how to win some tournament games. Couldn't do it at UC. Many of my friends from Cincinnati will attest to that. So he couldn't get it done at Cincinnati, but he has gotten it done at UCLA in just 2 years. This is his 3rd year. I got to go with the Bruins.
I agree. I feel like they're senior laden. They got a lot of guys returning back. They're just really good. I mean, it's hard to go against UCLA. Moving on, 12 versus 5. This is always the fan favorite. The 5 seeds in the last 12 years. I'm sorry, in the last 20 years, Chuck, is only 59%. There's about 2 12/5 upsets every bracket. Me and you might have some difference of opinions in these. We'll just break them down. But, for those listening, the 12/5 is the most common upset. So don't be afraid to sprinkle them in there. But New Mexico State versus Connecticut.
I don't think it warrants discussion. UConn. If you haven't been able to watch UConn play, if you were not able to watch the Big East semifinal game between Villanova and UConn, you did yourself a disservice. If you weren't able to watch them play late in the regular season, you did yourself a disservice. UConn is incredible. I got to see them in person. Adama Sanogo did not play West Virginia, or Tyrese Martin didn't play as well. 2 of their best players. West Virginia somehow scrapped it out, won the game. They are incredible. Adama Sanogo, another huge player, physically huge player. He has incredible talent. His paint presence, unmatched. He will match up against the best big men in the country every night of the week. You have him. You have RJ Cole. He makes everything run. RJ Cole, fantastic point guard who plays. The head coach of the UConn Huskies is Danny Hurley. Great story. If you don't know about him, look up Danny Hurley. He's been a fantastic coach. Comes from a coaching family. His brother Bobby coaching out there at Arizona State for the time being. Could be a coaching change coming soon to Tempe. But their father, Bob Hurley, coached at St. Anthony's High School in New Jersey. RJ Cole played for Danny Hurley's dad, Bob Hurley, played for him at St. Anthony's. That high school is closed now, but RJ Cole, he knows how to fight. And that's what UConn does. They fight, they scrap, they knock down 3-pointers at an incredible rate. This is a really good team. I have no doubt UConn will make it at least to the Sweet 16.
I agree with you. I like the point you made. Got to watch UConn play a couple of times. UConn is just tough. I mean, that's the one word I would use to describe them. They're tough. They just find a way to win. And Danny Hurley, he's a phenomenal coach to watch. He's just so passionate, energetic. I think UConn wins this game, double digits.
Let me
just because there's.
Sorry.
You're good.
Point about UConn's roster. Andre Jackson, don't forget about him. If you want to know how to learn, if you want to learn how to pass the basketball, watch Andre Jackson. No one moves the ball from end to end better than Andre Jackson. He's a fantastic guard that will continue to develop. I believe he's only a freshman, and he has been fantastic. And so he is a redshirt freshman. No, he might be a sophomore. He's a sophomore. He's fantastic, and you can't beat him. His passing ability, him as a guard, he's incredible.
All right, moving on. Next game out in the South, we got Houston, number 5 versus UAB, number 12. Give me your lowdown on this one, Chuck.
I would want to taste a bit with the Blazers there. I really would want to lean with them a little bit. Again, West Virginia played UAB, another tournament team that the Mountaineers played. Of course, we played another tournament team, but we don't make the tournament. Houston is good. Houston has competed in the American. They've looked strong. They've looked really strong. Many people would turn their nose up at the American Conference saying, oh, it's just the American. It's a tough conference. Always is competitive. And I would want to go with UAB. I got to go with Houston. You kind of convinced me before we started recording. I got to go with the Cougars.
I'm with you. To me, it's being from Alabama. You obviously want your in-state schools to be good. My wife went to UAB, so we watched a lot of Blazers action this past week, and they were fun to root for. It's a great story. Andy Kennedy returning back to coaching where he played at. You know, he's the second all-time leading scorer at UAB. Now he's there leading the troops. And a cool fact about the Blazers, the last 2 years they've been in the tournament, they've actually upset the team in the first round. So in the first round, the last 2 times they've been, they are 2-0. But the Houston Cougars the NCAA did a disservice putting them at number 5, Chuck.
They did.
They play defense like nobody's business. You know, if they hadn't have been in the same, they made it to the Final Four last year. Ran into a tough Baylor team there in the Final Four. They're only giving up 58.9 points a game on the year, and they're averaging over 70. They're tough. That was my one. Everybody was talking about Tennessee being seeded too low. My big complaint on the bracket was Houston being seeded too low. They won that American Conference tournament, and they're a 5 seed. 29-5. I mean, these dudes are solid. Love to see UAB win, but it's not happening this year.
And Houston's been without Marcus Sasser too. I couldn't remember his name off the top of my head. Marcus Sasser, and to win as many games they have without him is a real testament to how good of a coach Kelvin Sampson is and how much talent he has overall with that team.
Absolutely. Good squad. And fun fact, former UNA line head coach Bobby Champagne, now an assistant at Houston. So bringing those Alabama roots all the way to Houston. All right, moving on to the next 5-12, we got the Iowa Hawkeyes versus the 12-seeded A-10 champs Richmond Spiders. Richmond would not have been in if they hadn't have beat Dayton on a last-second play. I will give my biased opinion. I think the officiating definitely caused Davidson a loss in that game. I think they wanted another A-10 team in it. Richmond does not deserve to be in this tournament, and I will stand by my opinion. I'm going to say it now. Iowa's hot. Iowa is good. Iowa wins this one by 20.
There is no discussion needed. Iowa.
All right.
Have it now.
All right. So moving on, this is when it gets a little tricky, Chuck.
Yeah.
We're going to 5-12. The play-in games have not happened during this recording. But St. Mary's is playing the winner of Wyoming and Indiana. So let's first hit on Wyoming and Indiana first. Before we give those picks, just for those listening, they have expanded the first 4 back in 2011. So in the 11 years that the first 4 has been in effect, 10 of those teams have made it past the round of 64. So that means if you stand by the odds, which I'm a math guy, so I believe in statistics, one of these 2 teams that win the playing games is obviously going to upset the next opponent. So Wyoming, Indiana, first of all, give me your quick take. Who's going to win that first playing game?
I think Indiana. I don't know anything about the Cowboys, and I hate to be that way to pick against them because I don't know them. But I've seen Indiana a lot over the weekend. They looked incredible. They're just maybe a missed shot from Jordan Bohannon there at the buzzer for Iowa from playing for a Big Ten championship yesterday. And so I think Indiana is really good. You have Trace Jackson Davis, who it's amazing he's been there as long as he has because he is a one-and-done type talent. And so I think Indiana is just too competitive. I think they're a very good team. I think I get by Wyoming.
I agree with you. I like the point you made about Trace Jackson Davis. He is a absolute freak. For those that have not seen him play, he is something special when he catches the ball down the post. He doesn't try to do too much, but when he gets involved, he is a force. And I'm with you. I don't know too much about Wyoming other than keeping up with their scores. I know they won a lot of games. Honestly, I flip a coin. I'm just going to say Indiana because they've probably had the tougher route, and obviously Trace Jackson Davis. So we'll say Indiana wins. So moving on to now the actual pick. Are we gonna have a 5? Is this the 12/5 upset that we've been waiting on? Do you believe in Indiana to beat St. Mary's?
St. Mary's, they've gone through the ringer. They had to play Gonzaga 3 times in the West Coast Conference, and they got beat up pretty good in Vegas for the conference tournament title about a week ago now. And they beat them once, though. They did beat them once when they played them at home. So they've already beaten the number 1 team one time. I'm going to go with Indiana. I think Indiana has just really caught their stride. Mike Woodson, in his first year, has already accomplished so much. And it would be really, really great to see him continue on that run. It took Indiana long enough to fire Archie Miller, and to see Mike Woodson maybe accomplish at least this much, and then plus a first-round win in his first year as head coach would say a lot. So I got to go with the Hoosiers.
To me, I feel like so many people has been picking St. Mary's to beat Baylor in the Sweet 16. I've followed a lot. I've listened to a lot, and I don't have a 12/5 upset. So I'm kind of like you. It's not that I absolutely love Indiana or Wyoming to beat St. Mary's, but I feel like I have to pick one because that's what the stats say. And so I'm gonna ride with you. Whoever wins the Wyoming Indiana game, I'm gonna pick them over St. Mary's. I'm gonna have to obviously start picking my upsets before you, so it doesn't look like I'm copying you. So moving forward, that's my plan. All right, so jumping over to the 6-11 matchups, we've got Alabama versus the winner of Rutgers Notre Dame, another playing game. We got Colorado State versus Michigan, LSU versus Iowa State, and we have Texas versus Virginia Tech. The stats and predictions from this game is the 6 seeds have a losing record versus the 11 seeds in the last 20 years. So incredible stat when you really think about it. The 11 seeds win more than the 6 seeds do in these matchups. So we talked a little bit before about the matchups we did like. I'm going to go first on the Alabama versus Rutgers Notre Dame, mainly because I know what you're about to say. Alabama has had the toughest non-conference schedule I have ever seen a Division I basketball team play. They played an outrageous schedule, and they were very successful.
They were
very successful. Conference tournament came. Obviously, they were mediocre, about 500 in the field. But don't lose disrespect to how good the SEC is. The SEC is no pushover. SEC had a lot of great teams this year. That being said, I think Alabama is poised to make a deep run in the tournament. I don't think they get past Texas Tech in the second round, but I think Alabama beats, especially if Notre Dame wins. I don't think Notre Dame has a chance against Alabama. Rutgers would be a fun game if Rutgers won. But regardless who wins the Rutgers-Notre Dame game, I'm rolling with Alabama.
Yeah, you mentioned that schedule that Alabama had, and I kind of forgot about it, but just to go over it, South Dakota State, they beat them by 16. Oakland is a good squad. Got to see them play against West Virginia. Iona, who was, if they just don't screw up in the MEAC conference tournament, they're playing with Rick Pitino. Miami, a very good team. Gonzaga, they beat Gonzaga. They beat Houston. They got to play at Memphis. They lost to Memphis by 14. Don't forget Jacksonville State. They only beat them by 6 at home, but Jacksonville State is a very good team. And then don't forget Davidson. They had to play Davidson on top of that and lost by 1 point. So, yeah, Alabama's been through the ringer, and I will have to admit that they've been through the ringer. But no, I have not been impressed in games they should have won late in the year. They didn't do it. They don't look very, very good. I don't like watching them play. I'm just kind of waiting for it to happen, that Alabama's finally going to get it all to click. And it's tough. It's tough. But I like Rutgers beating Notre Dame in the play-in tomorrow on Tuesday night. And then I like Rutgers winning the whole thing. Rutgers has been your upset team all year. They've beaten so many top 15 teams. I have to go with the Scarlet Knights. Scarlet Knights beat Alabama.
I do like Rutgers. I think Ron Harper Jr. is a really good player, but Rutgers has only pulled an upset at home. They've not had a big upset on the road this year. So that's my justification.
San Diego, coach, anything can happen in San Diego. Anything.
You're right.
What happens in San Diego stays in San Diego, unlike the Chargers. They jump ship pretty quick.
Moving on, Colorado State versus Michigan. This is another one of those matchups. I don't know much about the Mountain West, but I do know that Juwan Howard is not a good dude. Bad things should happen to bad people. Juwan Howard should be fired. He should never have been allowed to come back. His punishment was not 5 games for punching another coach because he's got his panties in a wad because another that's a rant for another day. I'm not going to pick Michigan, even though they're probably the better team, but I'm not picking Michigan because I do not want Juwan Howard to win the game. Colorado State moves on.
Interesting. A lot of people, Michigan shouldn't be in the tournament. I'm not going to disagree. Michigan should not be in the tournament. That was a complete surprise. If anyone deserved that 11 seed over Michigan, it was Texas A&M. They won 23 games. They made it to the SEC title game to play against Tennessee. They lost, but Michigan making it was absurd. On the other note, Juwan Howard played on the Fab Five. If you haven't watched that 30 for 30, it's a fantastic 30 for 30. Michigan has Hunter Dickinson. Michigan has been probably the most disappointing team in college basketball this year. And it was all summed up with the incident there at the end between Wisconsin and Michigan with Juwan Howard and Greg Gard, and then Juwan Howard punching an assistant coach on the Wisconsin staff. I don't care. I think what Michigan wins this game. I know Colorado State has had a fantastic year out of the Mountain West Conference. The Rams, they've looked good. It's Hunter Dickinson, 18 points a game. His presence on the inside, it's tough to match up with. That's the kind of matchup you're looking at that game, and you're hoping maybe there's a chance in the Elite Eight. Hunter Dickinson gets to go up against Illinois, and you get to see him go against Kofi Coburn. I'm going with Michigan.
Colorado State beat Boise State, the team that won the Mountain West. They beat Boise twice. They beat St. Mary's by 16, and they beat Creighton by 14. Colorado State is 25-5, lots of good wins. Michigan, obviously, they've won some games in the Big Ten, but I mean, you're going to play some of them at home. So to me, that's not a wow factor. I think Colorado State's got enough wins on their record. And like I said, don't lose the fact they're 25-5. So they're obviously a good team. Don't fall in that trap just because it's 11-6. It's an enticing matchup to pick Michigan, but don't fall for that trap. Moving on, LSU versus Iowa State. Go ahead, Chuck.
I'll say just 3 words. No Will Wade. LSU fired Will Wade over the weekend after they were knocked out of the SEC tournament due to the allegations against him with the NCAA. He's a cheater. No way around it. No Will Wade for LSU. It's a 6 seed going up against an 11 seed Iowa State team. Iowa State has looked horrendous to end the year. They got walloped by Texas Tech in the Big 12 tournament. Cyclones are not the same team they were at the beginning of the year when they started off undefeated with Olsenberg as their head coach, or I might have the right name. I have to look that one up. It's sad. It's my conference, and I don't know. I got to go with Iowa State. No Will Wade. Got to go with the Cyclones.
I'm pulling the opposite. Will Wade got fired 2 years too late, but I feel like there's going to be a resurgence for the Tigers. The LSU's got great players. Iowa State has looked like absolute trash the past month and a half. Yeah. I think LSU is just somehow going to form together, just bond over the situation they're thrown into. I'm going to pick LSU here to keep my 6 seeds alive. Final one, and this is a good one. Texas versus Virginia Tech. The Hokies playing hot, ran the table in the ACC tournament. Texas has been very wishy-washy this year with Chris Beard taking over after coming from Texas Tech over to in-state rival Texas Longhorns. I'm just going to be honest, Chuck. I'm riding with the Hokies. I think Mike Young has done an incredible job. Storm Murphy can stroke the ball, and Texas just cannot score the basketball. I'm going Virginia Tech. Chuck is doing horns down, and he says that's all he's saying. Moving on. Let's move to the 8-9 matchups. The 8-9, 7-10s, Chuck, you know that as well as I do. Just flip a coin. No statistics are showing either one is more favorable than the other.
Coach, you skipped the 10-7 game here.
Moving on to the 7-10 seeds, just to appease Chuck. Same as the 8-9s, flip a coin. No statistics are showing either way. Starting up in the West region, Michigan State versus Davidson. Who you got?
Davidson. I don't know. That's a tough one. I haven't seen Davidson very much. Davidson, we like you mentioned, they should have won the Atlantic 10 over Richmond.
Horrible officiating.
Yeah, just horrible officiating there by your point. I did not see the game, sadly. I don't know. Michigan State, they're not very pleasing. They're not a pleasing team. There isn't a superstar on that Michigan State team. Tyson Walker's been playing like one. But going into this year, not a lot of people knew who Tyson Walker was outside the Big Ten. I think Michigan State. I have to go with Michigan State. I like the upset with Davidson. It's not really, I think, by NCAA standards, an upset if a 10 beats a 7, though. I think you have to be 5 spots behind. But I have to go with the Spartans. I think Tom Izzo, he knows what to do in March. As long as he doesn't get to the Final Four, I'll pick for him for a little bit. But I'll go with the Spartans.
I'm going to ride Davidson. Davidson has 4 seniors that they play a lot. They can score the ball at will. They're averaging 76 points a game. They have a lot of shooters. The offense runs really well. I don't think it matters who wins the game as far as the next round goes.
No.
But I'm riding Davidson just because I've seen them play. They've been tested. Obviously, their non-conference schedule. They went out and played Bama. They played San Francisco. They went and traveled to Dayton. They played St. Louis. In conference. I think Davidson's a good team. They're sitting there also another team with a good record, 27-6. They know how to win the ball game. And it goes back to one of my picking principles. Don't pick for Tom Izzo because he will break your heart. Proven, signed, sealed, delivered. Moving on, number 7, Ohio State versus number 10, Loyola Chicago. Is there still magic for Sister Jean? Or are you going with the Buckeyes?
Oh, I don't know about the magic of Sister Jean, but I know how I feel about the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I think if Ohio State would have started playing as badly as they have been playing about a week earlier, they wouldn't be in the tournament. And I think you can make a case maybe for some teams that got left out to get in over Ohio State just because of how badly they have looked. I like that. I like Loyola Chicago. We know about the history they have, especially in recent years in the NCAA tournament. Last year, going to the Sweet 16, they beat Illinois. Second round, they were a 9 seed. They beat Illinois the 1. I'm going to go with them again. I'm going to go with the Ramblers. You don't have Porter Moser as your head coach. You have actually Denzel Valentine's brother, Drew, is their head coach, and they've been fantastic. They've been fantastic. I'll go with Loyola Chicago.
I agree. I don't buy into the hype of Ohio State. I don't think they should be seated this high. I feel like they should have been seated more of the 10, 11 range themselves. I think Loyola Chicago, they're not as good as they have been. But when the game gets down to nut cutting time, they've shown that they can compete with the best of them. They had UConn on the ropes early in the year. They had Auburn. They only lost by 9, but it was a close game early on. Loyola Chicago's made a run through the Missouri Valley Conference. They won the conference tournament at being a 4 seed. So they obviously know how to just sit down and guard. So I'm going to ride with Loyola Chicago as well. Continuing down in the Midwest bracket, number 7, USC versus number 10, Miami. I'm going to start this one out, Chuck, and say that I feel like Miami has been overhyped. I feel like they had a great start to the conference, but if you follow the ACC at all, the ACC is a weaker conference than it has been in the past. I feel like they got blown up because they started out so successful. I believe they finished 4th in the conference, but they were winning the conference for a long time. They ended up going 14-6 in the conference play. But they give up a lot of points. They give up 71. They're only scoring 74. I don't feel like they play that good a defense. And I know Andy Enfield has a way when it comes to March Madness, that dating back to his days at Florida Gulf Coast. So I'm going to ride with the Trojans beating Miami in this one.
I think I'll go with USC just because I have a lack of faith in Miami. They should have lost to Boston College. They were completely outplayed in that game. It went to overtime. They should have lost. And they went to overtime. They hit a buzzer beater layup on an incredible 3-quarter court pass. And so I'll just go with USC.
Yep. Great point there. They definitely should not have won. The last one, Murray State 7 playing San Francisco 10. I'll let you take the reins first, Chuck.
The Dons, the Dons have won, I believe, 2 national championships. There's a little factoid for you. They won, I think, pretty sure 2 national championships in their men's basketball history. But they're going up against Murray State. Murray State, who has been a power in college basketball mid-majors in the last few years. They have looked really good. Nobody's going to forget John Morant. Obviously, what he did in his time there with the Racers was fantastic. Murray State looks great again. They got respect. They talked about that yesterday on the selection show. Clark Kellogg mentioned it. It was respect. It was respect for what they've been doing over the last few years and what they did this year. They made it through the Missouri Valley Conference. They were undefeated. They were undefeated again. And so I think you have to go with Murray State. I think they're a good team. I think Murray State could give Kentucky trouble in that second round game. So I'll go with the Racers.
I agree. San Francisco is another team that started out hot. They kind of fizzled once conference play started. They 24-9, but they were 10-6 in the West Coast Conference. Not knocking it. Obviously, you got Gonzaga and St. Mary's there, but I feel like San Francisco. I feel like they're limping into this one. Murray State 30-2. 30-2, Chuck. Like that's
undefeated in conference play, also like South Dakota State.
I don't care if you're playing DAR 30 times. You go 30-2.
Coach, watch the slander here.
That's something to be bragging about. And this is my favorite statistic when I'm looking at teams for anybody following along. Look at the point differential from points per game versus points allowed per game. They're averaging 79.3 points. They're only giving up 62.3. That is the largest point differential of any team in the tournament. Over almost 16, 17 points a game difference here. Murray State is a really good team. They are my Cinderella team for the tournament. I'm riding with the Racers high in this one.
Yeah.
All right. Can we move on to the 8-9s?
8-9, go quick because these are – I might just flip a coin every time.
All right, 8-9, topping in the top left, the West bracket, Boise State versus Memphis. Another case, Missouri Valley Conference. I think Boise State, they play really slow. Memphis plays really fast. Anthony Penny Hardaway has got Memphis playing hot lately. I'm going to ride with the Tigers.
I'm not going to flip the coin yet. I'll go with Memphis. Sorry,
right.
Broncos. Broncos is a led by former assistant coach on the Gonzaga staff. His name escapes me right now, but Memphis. I got to go with the Tigers.
Moving over to the South, Seton Hall versus TCU. Who you got?
Heads is Seton Hall, tails TCU. It is heads. I'll go with Seton Hall. Seton Hall, and plus our rule we made there, Jamie Dixon, TCU. I think he could have been fired this year. He saved his job. He is an alum, but I'll go with Seton Hall. Kevin Willard.
Have you watched TCU play at all in person, Chuck?
I did not see him in person.
Maybe even on TV. Have you watched them play at all?
Oh yeah, I watched them the 2 times we played them. I watched them in the conference tournament against Texas. I've seen them once or twice. I've seen about a half dozen times.
Chuck,
you don't know. You just don't know about him. You really don't. Mike Miles comes out. He plays like an all first teamer in the Big 12. Sometimes he doesn't come out at all. Micah Peavy has great potential. I don't know if it's ever going to get there. You don't know.
I'm breaking my rule. I'm going with TCU because I've seen what they can do. Seton Hall,
can do a lot.
They have a presence about them. I'm going TCU in the upset here. Minor upset. Moving down to the Midwest.
Real quick, let it be known, my pick was based off the flip of a coin. So if I get that one wrong or make whoever listens to this get it wrong, I'm sorry.
I'm also still sour. Seton Hall stole my Syracuse point guard, Kadari Richmond. So I wish him the best, but I'm taking TCU in this one. Moving on to the Midwest region, number 8, San Diego State versus number 9, Creighton.
There's your San Diego State. I'm going to go with the Blue Jays. Creighton looked really, really good against Providence. They fought hard. Kalkbrenner, big-time big man for the Blue Jays. If you haven't been able to see them play, they're really good. And then Alex O'Connell, coach knows about Alex O'Connell, going up against him and Duke in his time there at the Blue Devils. He transferred out to Creighton. He was looking fantastic in the Big East tournament. I got to go with Creighton.
I'm going San Diego State, Chuck.
Oh,
not
Coach, you beat them last year. You can't do that.
Well, they might have made a run if they hadn't went against happened went against us. But San Diego, Creighton, I've watched them enough times, they just have trouble scoring too many times. They, only averaging, I know they're averaging 69 on the year, but they've had games in the 50s, like 3 or 4 times. San Diego State's holding their opponents to 57 points a game. I'm going to ride with the Aztecs. They're going to be upset because of last year. They're going to come out with some redemption. Aztecs, moving on. Last one, UNC versus Marquette.
Tar Heels.
Shaka, no Shaka magic?
No Shaka magic. I'm amazed they made it. West Virginia lost to them earlier in the year. It's great what Shaka has done already in his first year. Not a ton of accomplishments there for the Golden Eagles. North Carolina looks really good. North Carolina somehow lost by 17 to Virginia Tech. That was 13 to Virginia Tech. That was shocking, but I think North Carolina, they got the talent. They have the talent. And they have Armando Bacot. And they have Brady Manick. What more do you need?
I agree. UNC is poised for a deep run. I'm going to take the Tar Heels as well. All right, moving on. Let's start back over. We're going to take our winners real quick if you want. I know some of our picks might be a tad different, so we'll adjust if we need to. I got Gonzaga versus Memphis. I believe you have the same matchup in the round of 32. Any chance that Penny's Tigers can upset Gonzaga?
No, I don't think so. I'm going to go with Gonzaga.
I agree. I don't think there's no debate. I don't think there's much left. Moving on in that same region, number 5 Connecticut versus number 4 Arkansas. This is the best matchup imaginable if you're wanting to pit 2 animated coaches together and 2 teams that just will fight it out head to toe. This would be a dream come true matchup 2C. It makes my mouth water just thinking about it, just because of how aggressive both of these styles are. I'm going to ride with Arkansas here between these 2 teams. UConn is good. I am not saying they're not good, but Aaron Musselman's he's just a man among men, and I'm going to ride with him.
Finish out your region here, and then I'll finish out my region, starting with that game.
Okay. Moving on, number 6 Alabama versus 3 Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech has done an incredible job since losing Chris Beard. I'll be honest, I didn't expect them to have as much success as they're having now, but their ability to guard you in the half court and score in the other end has been impressive to me. I'm going to take Texas Tech to beat Alabama. Number 10, Davidson versus number 2, Duke. I think the Blue Devils have just too much firepower. I feel like they're catching a lot of flack right now, but let's not forget of the incredible season that they have had. Pablo Banchero is a great, great player. They've got shooters all over the perimeter. They hit 18 threes against my Syracuse Orange late in the year, so they have the ability to shoot the ball. Rolling up to the Sweet 16, I've got Gonzaga over Arkansas in the 1-4 matchup. Like I said, Gonzaga's just got a lot of firepower and to continue to move on. They can score the ball too well, even though Arkansas can play hard. I've got Texas Tech over Duke in my Elite 8. And then moving on to the Elite 8. And then in the Elite 8 regional finals, I've got Gonzaga beating Texas Tech to move on to the Final Four.
Well, I'll go back to that UConn-Arkansas game. I'll pick UConn. I like them too much. I've already talked about their talent. Moving down, I'll take Texas Tech. Red Raiders, they're my dark horse. I think they can go far. Duke beats Davidson. And I'll have Gonzaga. I love UConn to death, but I don't think it's just yet for them. Sweet 16, I have to put Gonzaga in the Elite 8. I have Texas Tech beating Duke as well. I think it just keeps moving along. Mark Smith in his first year just keeps it going. But then it runs out. Elite 8, Gonzaga. They're going to get back to the Final Four again. They're finally maybe going to win it this time. I have to put Gonzaga in my Final Four.
All solid picks. Moving to the South region. We got Arizona versus TCU. I know you had Seton Hall by way of your coin flip. I wouldn't lie. I'm not going to say I know much about Arizona, but as much as people has been ranting and raving about them, I think it's safe to say I want to advance them forward. In the Houston versus Illinois, in the 5 versus 4, I'm riding with Kofi Coburn. I think Illinois is poised for a deep run. They got all the pieces, and I feel like Underwood's just going to get them to start clicking. Colorado State versus Tennessee. Tennessee's playing too good. They got really good shooters. I think Rick Barnes has done a good job getting them poised up. Tennessee moves on to the Sweet 16. Loyola Chicago versus Villanova. Villanova's got good firepower as well. I enjoy the way Jay Wright has them playing, coming off of a Big East Conference tournament. They're playing hot. Villanova advances to the Sweet 16. First big upset, Chuck. Illinois over Arizona. Kofi Coburn cannot be stopped. It's going to take more than 2 7-footers to slow him down. Tennessee versus Villanova. The Vols continue to roll past. Rocky Top keeps throwing trouble at them. In my lead 8, I've got Illinois beating Tennessee to move to the Final Four.
I'm going with Arizona over TCU. I'm sorry, Seton Hall. My coin flip doesn't pay off. I'll have to roll with Illinois over Houston. I think they are just too good of a team right now. Tennessee gets past Michigan. Michigan's 11 seed year. They ended out in the second round. And then Villanova, Loyola, Chicago, Villanova. They've looked great. Jay Wright does it again. I'm going to start back down there. Villanova, Tennessee. Going Wildcats. I'm going to go opposite of your coach. I have to go Villanova. And then I'm going to take Arizona out of the other bracket there with the South region. They go to the Elite Eight. And then I'm riding with the Wildcats. Matherin, they go to the Final Four. So Arizona. That's going to be the deal breaker between you and me. Whoever gets that South right will win this whole thing between us.
I hope I'm right just for my sake.
Yeah.
Jumping down to the Midwest, we got Kansas versus San Diego State. Well, I do anyway. I think you got Creighton sitting there. I don't love Kansas. I don't like them. I'm not sold on Bill Self. Period. I know he continuously wins year in, year out. But it would not hurt my feelings at all to see Texas Southern beat the Jayhawks in the 16-1. I'm going to go ahead and pick Kansas just because I feel like mathematically it's the smart thing to do, not necessarily what I want to happen. I'm going Kansas over San Diego State. Iowa versus South Dakota State. I will eventually get that right. Iowa's playing too good. I'm rolling with them to move past a very good Jackrabbits team. LSU versus Wisconsin. I'm rolling with Wisconsin just because of their interior presence and because I feel like LSU is going to fizzle out without the Western Union man, Will Wade. And down there in the bottom, I think Auburn rolls past USC. They're catching a lot of flack, not being able to win away from the jungle there in Auburn. But at the end of the day, Auburn's a very good team. I think they find a way to keep rolling. In the Sweet 16, I'm taking Iowa to upset number 1 seed Kansas. And then at the bottom, I'm going to have Auburn beating number 3 Wisconsin to move to the Elite Eight. And then Iowa punches their ticket. If somehow that game could happen, Iowa versus Auburn, that game might be in the 160s. Both teams play so fast, love to shoot the three. That one would be a fun matchup to see. I wouldn't be, it wouldn't hurt my feelings to watch that.
I'll take Kansas over Creighton. Iowa, South Dakota State. I like Jordan Bohannon too much. And then Keegan Murray, hands down, one of the top 10 players in this tournament. And then Iowa State, they fizzle out against Wisconsin. Wisconsin still has Johnny Davis. He's fantastic. Auburn does keep rolling, sticking down there. I'll take Auburn to the Elite Eight. I think they're suspect, but I'll have them to the Elite Eight. I will take I believe I have Kansas. Let me make sure I'm putting this out there correctly. I might have Kansas losing to Iowa here because I filled out a bracket earlier today, and I just want to make sure I'm not saying the wrong thing here. I want to make sure that I am getting this correct, and I'm pretty sure that I have Kansas losing to Iowa. Let me just double check this real quick so I'm not telling a lie here, making sure I have this correctly.
Go ahead and change that. Iowa loses to Kansas. Go ahead and make that change.
No, I believe that actually. Kansas beats Iowa, and Kansas faces Auburn. I'm going with the Jayhawks. I don't love it, but I think Kansas goes to the Final Four.
All right. On the left side, final bracket, the East bracket, Baylor versus North Carolina. We both have this matchup. I want to talk about this one for a moment. We both agree that Baylor, if we're going to say there's a 1 seed that shouldn't be in, it should be Baylor. And that's easy to say because they were the last remaining 1 seed. I've watched North Carolina team. I watched them in person. I went and watched them play Syracuse 2 weeks ago. I know what they're capable of. I know the firepower that they have. They can shoot the ball. They have Brady Manick, who is an absolutely incredible college player. And they also have Armando Bacot in the post anchoring it down. Chuck, do you think the Tar Heels can pull the upset here?
I don't. I think Baylor, the talent, the experience, they have a lot of experienced players. I think your Sohan is a possibly top 10 pick. You can't forget about Meyer. He's been a very good shooter throughout his career at Baylor. Then you have Flagler. He's gone through some growing pains, but you never know. If Cryer plays, Baylor has a real chance of actually really competing for a national championship. But Kinjo has been fantastic transfer from Arizona. I'm going with Baylor. I don't think Tar Heels have it.
I want to pull the trigger, but it's kind of like you. It's a tough one. Moving down in the next part, I've got the winner of Wyoming, Indiana playing UCLA. I don't think this matters who's playing UCLA. UCLA they have a lot of weapons and a lot of guns sitting right there. I'm gonna take the Bruins. Chuck, I feel like, did you pick St. Mary's or did you pick the play-in winner?
I picked Indiana, but I'll pick UCLA over Indiana.
I'm right there with you. I think the Bruins are a good team, and I think they move on. I think our bracket here is pretty solid, so we keep chucking it up one game at a time. Number 11, Virginia Tech versus Purdue. What do you think there?
Purdue's good. They have a great player, Jaden Ivey. They have a great Tavion Williams is really good as well. Also with Jared Edey, of course. So I'll go with Purdue.
I agree. I'm going to take Purdue in that one as well. At the bottom, Murray State versus Kentucky. Murray State's my Cinderella team. I'm not pleased with Kentucky at all. I think Murray State, like I said, please hear me again. They're 30-2, 16-point differential margin on the year scoring. Murray State team, better watch out. I'm taking them over the Wildcats.
I agree with you. I think they're a very untrustworthy team. Kentucky is, but I can't go with it. I'll have Kentucky going, and then I'll just jump ahead real quick. I'll have Kentucky going to the Sweet 16. I got the names completely wrong. It's not Jared Edey. It's Zach Edey, the 7'4" center. And then the second teamer, Trevion Williams, is fantastic. That 1-2 punch in the inside. I have Purdue beating Kentucky. So I don't have Kentucky going very far. I have Purdue beating Kentucky to go to the Elite Eight ahead of you.
Chuck, I'm talking, and I had Purdue in my Final Four, but Murray State it's like talking to me, Chuck. It's talking to me. It's talking to me. I'm making a change. Murray State is beating Murray State over Purdue in the Sweet 16. I'm taking UCLA over Baylor in the top side of the bracket. And then I'm going to have UCLA beating Murray State to advance to the Final Four.
I'll have Purdue. I have UCLA beating Baylor. I have Purdue beating UCLA to go to the Final Four.
Respect. My final matchups, Chuck, Gonzaga over UCLA. Purdue was there. It wouldn't have mattered. I'm still taking Gonzaga to get into my national championship. I got Illinois beating Iowa on the other side, a Big Ten rematch. And then I am riding with, Chuck, I don't know what to do here. Gonzaga's good. Gonzaga's due. Gonzaga is due for a win.
I'll go with Gonzaga over Purdue. I'll go with Arizona over Kansas. And I'll go with Gonzaga over Arizona. I want to ride with Arizona. Tommy Lloyd in his first year would be a storybook ending. He could retire right there. But like you said, Gonzaga's due. They're due. And I think they're finally going to get it. Is this the third time the charm or fourth time's the charm? Come on.
It says a lot, Drew Timme coming back. I think that says a lot about him. But I'm going to throw a stat at you, Chuck. Overall, in the history of the tournament, dating back to whenever, the year just left me. Whenever it became, they started announcing the number one overall seed in 2004. I believe is when they started. They started changing it from being geographical to top to bottom. Since 2004, we're looking at 18, 19 years. How many of those times do you think the number one overall seed won the national championship?
3.
You are exactly right.
Oh, what a guess.
All right. When was the last time it happened? What year?
Kentucky, 2012.
Close. Louisville, 2013.
Oh, man, I got the right state and a year behind.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And so it hasn't happened often, obviously, and it hasn't happened in a very long time. Gonzaga is due. The stars line up. They're such good players. I'm gonna make the obvious, easy choice. I'll ride with Gonzaga as my national champion.
I hope everyone has had a bracket in their hand filling it out over these last 45 minutes to an hour because we just won your poll. You're welcome. You're welcome.
That wraps up another edition of the Mental Dimes podcast. Chuck, it has been an absolute joy of my soul to have you back. I've missed you. You're still awesome. For those out there that want to follow along, Chuck is very active in the Twitter world. Chuck, what is your handle to let everybody know?
It's CMonty 2000, CMONTY 2000. If you want to see some disparaging remarks about the West Virginia basketball team over these last few months, or the West Virginia football team with Neil Brown, I am very, very outspoken about those two things. So,
if you want to follow along with Chuck, absolutely. If you want to as well follow along with the Mental Dimes, you can hit us up on Instagram or Twitter at Mental Dimes. Give us a follow, a like, a shout, and we will hopefully change your mind throughout our opinions. As always, check out